Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Lads, it's Tottenham. It's been a quiet week, hasn't it? Not much has happened. What are we going to talk about?
Internationals. Nothing happens in the internationals week.
Internationals, indeed. Nothing happens in the international fortnight at all. So, we even got a special guest on to talk about his book, which we will talk about. But first of all, what I wanted to say was Ricky Sachs gets wheeled out by Sky and talks about all the time. But Ricky, and so do other people. But Ricky's got nothing on our very own HG, who is a star of Ghanaian TV. Look at there he is on ABC talking about the signing of Kudos a few weeks ago. How are you, big man?
Do you know, it looks like I've got like Alex Ferguson-itis in that shot, but unbelievably, that red face was getting sunburned in Devon. Can't believe I got sunburned in the UK. But yeah, I'm all right. Thank you. Much better to be back. And I'm always happy to talk Spurs.
It's been a long time since you and I have been on the stream together because neither of us have done many, you have to admit. Loads of people in the chat. We've even got the legend that is Brian Daigle is with us. Obviously, he's a little bit happy, much like our own Davo. Connor, our Tuesday night regular, is here. Did live. There he is. There's the man down under as well. Which is a nice segue into our guest tonight, who is one of the Cheese Room Patreons, Andrew, who is an expat who lives out in Sydney, who's written this, as I say, written this book, which I'll bring up in a minute when the whistle blows. Andrew, first of all, how are you?
I'm well. It's just after 6 in the morning. So if I look like I just got out of bed, that's because I have. And probably when we finished, I might go back there. But it's good. It's good to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
That's right. And first of all, actually, before we talk about the book, we need to, of course, wish Tottenham Hotspur 143rd birthday. They celebrated by removing the chairman, or the chairman stepped down. There's various stories out there. HG, you got any birthday memories from Tottenham?
No, I mean, nothing. I mean, it's weird. I always remember it being September the 5th, but I always know that that their famous anniversary game was on my wife's birthday, which is the 1st of October. So I don't quite know why that Villa game was always a month late. However, I don't have many memories about Spurs having a birthday because it's always pretty much international week whenever these games are on. So yeah, can't give you much there.
The one I remember was 1992 when we played Everton and they absolutely battered us, but only managed to be 1-0 up, and we scored 2 very late goals, including 17-year-old Andy Turner scoring the 92nd minute or something to win it.
Okay, I was at that game, but I would never have known it was September the 5th.
Oh, well, that's why I mentioned Andy Turner in our chat the other day. But yes, the 4-4 game, the 125th anniversary against Villa, when were we 4-1 down?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and Kabul absolutely rocketed it in the last minute. So, yes, we were supposed to be joined by Blain this evening. Unfortunately, Blain's not feeling very well, so has had to graciously drop out. Already, Andrew, you're being asked questions by Mr. Harris. Where are you?
I'm not in Sydney actually. I'm out in regional New South Wales, about a 6-hour drive out of Sydney, a place called Gilgandra. In my motorhome, you might have noticed it's an unconventional setting here. We own a caravan park. It's a family business. I do have an apartment in Sydney, but we've rented it out and we're traveling full time at the moment, which is talked about in the book as well. So so not in Sydney, but we live in Mosman when we're in Sydney, which is just on the harbour there.
Okay, so let's quickly get into your book. We'll discuss a bit of that, and then we might discuss the departure of our chairman. So this book, When the Final Whistle Blows, is available on Amazon now. I will put the link in the description later on. It is £15, and I'll get Andrew, to explain where the money's going exactly afterwards. But he is not taking a penny. In fact, it's cost him money to do this. But Jack Pitbrook has written you a little testimonial. This is a touching story about Tottenham Hotspur fan experiencing the 24-25 season from Australia. But it's also a deep, meaningful book which shows how sport connects us and the memories that it leaves us with. Andrew, would you like to explain briefly, because it's quite a complex story. It's not just about following Spurs last season by any means.
No. Well, so yeah, just quickly, and yeah, thank you for reminding everyone they can buy it on Amazon. You know, my mission, having put this thing out there, is to get it in front of as many Spurs supporters as possible, in the hope that you know, they will support the cause and go out and buy the book. The feedback I've had on the book has been tremendous, actually, and there's some reviews started to appear now on Amazon. People can have a look at that before they click the buy button. Yeah, the thought I had was that, as I mentioned, we're traveling full time. I retired, so I've got a little bit of time on my hands, and I had a sort of a bit of a passion for writing. And the idea I had was that I would sort of essentially write the season up week by week. Talk a little bit about the game. I try and find something funny in each of the games. It was like a mini match report, you know, funny little things that happen. Like, you remember the match where Kukurea came to the pitch on, you know, with a pair of ballet shoes, and we, you know, we were 2-0 up after 10 minutes, and then he put a pair of football boots on, and we lost 4-2, right? So that kind of thing. And the idea was to just sort of track my emotional journey alongside the physical journeys that my wife and I are doing at the moment. And of course, we watch the matches. We don't, you know, we did actually go to a couple of live matches, but generally speaking, obviously, we're watching them streamed wherever we are in the world, and mainly in Australia. And the idea was to track my emotional journey through the season. And because that, you know, it was written contemporaneously, I didn't know where the story would go. And actually, it went somewhere really very different to what I ever imagined. Because what happened at towards the end of the season was a very good friend, not just of mine, but of all of the Sydney and many other Spurs supporters, Cameron White, who was our sort of chapter leader in Sydney for many years, ended up passing away through cancer, which he'd been suffering for about 6 years, I think. And he was able to use the laws that we now have for voluntary assisted dying in Australia. So he was able to choose the day that he would die, and that then became part of the story of the book. And there was this, you know, whilst there was an awful lot of lows in the season, it obviously came with the high from a football point of view, and that then coincided with Cameron's passing, which was 4 days after the Europa League final. So the book sort of, whilst at one point I felt I was going to have to ditch the whole thing because the season was going so badly. I thought, well, nobody's going to want to read about this. In the end, it kind of came good from a football point of view, and then we had this sort of tragic situation with Cameron, and it all came together. And that's why I ended up deciding, and, you know, I went to see Cameron and explained to him that, you know, well, first of all, I asked him his permission to be able to write his story in the book, which he gave me. And I said, look, any money I make, I'll donate to the hospital, the cancer hospital. They do a lot of research, and it's an amazing hospital in Sydney. So that's how in brief it all came about. And as you mentioned, I've covered the cost myself getting the book out there. So literally, other than the money that goes to Amazon, obviously we've got to cover their share. But every other pound or every other dollar will go directly to cancer research, which is obviously why I'm passionate about getting the message out and inviting people to you know, to support the cause.
Excellent. It is a really good read. I can honestly recommend it. If you got any family birthdays or Christmas coming up, do get yourselves the book. I've just put the link for Andrew's website, which has got links for Australia and the US and the UK in there in the chat. I'll put it in the description later. What I love is there is actually, and it's like almost like you had the foresight, there is a chapter or a section on Mr. Daniel Levy, which is a lovely segue into the rather quiet news that came out just yesterday. HG, Tottenham Hotspur announces the departure of executive chairman Daniel Levy. I mean, I'm sure most people have read the words, but basically he's being replaced by Peter Charrington, who's been on the board as a non-executive director since March. I gather that he is the personal banker of Joe Lewis, so very close to Joe Lewis and someone he trusts. There have been rumours for a while that not everything has been necessarily fine, but we've also been told, HG, that this has been planned for a while. But there's a lot of messages out there from journalists suggesting that Levy has been pushed out.
I mean, do you want me to speculate now?
Yeah, I mean, surely there's no smoke without fire. There's so many comments like this have come out in the last 24 hours, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, like it's weird that in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, there's a business journalist, and he's been predicting that this was going to happen for a while. Every time that there was some change, or like especially when Charrington was announced a few months ago, he was convinced that this is where it was heading. So whether it was a choice of Levy or whether it was made for him, I guess it doesn't really matter too much, because for a lot of people, they got what they wanted. I tend to side with the people who think that this was decided for him, and that he'd had a long time in charge, and maybe Joe's daughter wants to try and do something different. Whatever that something different is, I don't know. That's where the speculation comes in, as to whether they're lining up a sale, or whether they want to use the family money to do it themselves. When I say it out loud like that, they probably want to have some kind of sale, I would think. But it's just it's a nervy excitement, right? Like, is that idea of like change, and like we don't know what's going to happen, but we know that nothing will really happen, certainly football wise, for another 4 months, right? So it's kind of I think it's interesting that it was announced as soon as the transfer window was over, because we don't really know. We've got so much time now to speculate about what could be happening, or what might even happen before the next window opens. With the rumors about Amanda Staveley being involved and trying to, broker a deal of some kind. So it just feels weird. Like, half my life ago, when Daniel Levy took over, and at the time I had no idea who he was, and I guess I was quite happy that it wasn't still the 90s, right? We were going to try something different. But yeah, it feels odd.
It's interesting, Andrew. I think obviously there's a huge number of people who wanted Mr. Levy out for quite a long time, but he seems to have had quite a lot of people have been quite positive about him in the last 24 hours. It's a bit like when Wenger left Arsenal, I guess, in a way. What's sort of been your view of his tenure?
Oh, look, I think like anyone else, it's fairly obvious to me, and most people have said this. He is an incredible businessman. I think I talk a little bit about. I've got an anecdote in the book about the stadium, but whatever way you look at that is a remarkable achievement. And I was looking at the new Everton Stadium on the telly the other day. It's not a patch on what we've got, right? So he's done something really significant for the club in that regard, and we are now financially in a really strong position. But the issue was always that the underinvestment in the playing side, and I always look at for me the key thing is the wage structure. We're down below Aston Villa and Newcastle, let alone the other top, so-called top six. And the question for me now, and because I believe he was pushed, I think if he were going to resign, leave, he would have done it at the end of the last season. I think he's been pushed, but the question now, of course, is: was it Levy or was it Enick that was determining, how much money we're spending? And I think we're now going to soon find out, because either, as you say, actually, it would be the next transfer window. But are we suddenly going to see a step change, or in fact, possibly even Levy was trying to get more money out of the Lewises and couldn't get it? So we just don't know, do we? But it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure.
I mean, like it would be
and obviously
weird.
he owns 20. Go on.
Right. So, like, it would be weird that, like, I firmly believe he was doing what Joe wanted him to do. Right, for the last 25 years, it was build the business. It was, because remember those first few years, we were buying players. We spent 8 million on Dean Richards, and like it wasn't weird to see Tottenham spending 40-50 million in a summer, largely badly. And it was only when things started to change, 2004, when we kind of decided, right, we're going to, in effect, buy every young player we can think of, and then build a team from that, where it was, Andy Reid or Dawson or Huddleston or lots of young English players we decided to invest money in the hope of building something, and it worked, right? And so we were able to, every couple of years, or every maybe for a few seasons every summer, sell someone on, but then reinvest that money and build a stronger squad, which is what we did between maybe 2006 and 2010. I mean, in the space of 4 years, we went from being kind of, finishing fifth on, it was Lausanne, it was like 2006, right? So we'd obviously done pretty well in that first couple of years, and then we just couldn't get over the line. But we all remember the night at Man City, and it feels like Levy was doing what Lewis wanted him to do. I've never had the impression that he was doing something that was his own idea, right? I mean, the idea that we were going to sell before we buy, well, that's been the case for 20 years now? I mean, it's a long time. So the issue is whether
actually you don't think anything fundamentally will change, even with
see, that's just it. Because Joe is not officially in charge, and he's in his 80s himself, late 80s.
He's almost 90.
Is he really? Okay, so this is the thing. So, if there is a change, it's coming from his daughter. I believe that, because I don't think Joe is really that fussed either way. He's made all the money he needs to. He's got an investment for his kids that, obviously that they love. You see the picture there. So it's how Vivian wants to move the club forward, which is the thing that we're all nervous about or excited about, nervously excited. But I do think that clearly she wants to do something that doesn't involve Daniel, and that will win her lots of admirers just by itself. Whether it changes significantly, I don't know, but I suspect she may well. I mean, where's the investment going to come from? To me, she's probably going to want to sell a little bit and have people have that money coming in from outside to spend. But I don't envisage us doing what City have done or what other teams have done and spending way more than we've been used to, because we went out and bought 250 million players this summer. We did the same last summer. We did the same the summer before. Like, it's not like we're not spending. It's just, to me, been the fact that we've been spending it unwisely.
And then not selling, because he had a period. Obviously, he sold Berbatov, Carrick, Modric, Bale for big money, and he got accused of the club being a selling club. And then we just stopped. We didn't sell. Supposedly, when Man United were interested in Dyer for 50 million, when Mourinho was there was links with Delhi. And I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but that's probably where it's gone wrong. We've been a rubbish club at selling in the last 10 years.
But honestly, I don't have a problem with that. Like, that was a good team. Why are we selling that? Like, I still think the start of the downfall was the fact we sold Walker, right? If you're going to sell, you sell abroad. You don't strengthen your rival, which is what City were at that time. Since then, we haven't really had a player that other teams have really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember any massive. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, when Eriksen was available, there was no massive store. Like, I'm thinking of the German Sturm. There was no rush to go and sign him. The same with when Alderweireld had his 25 million release clause. That wasn't taken. So those are things that I don't really understand, but I still. I have no issue with Spurs, if they've got a good team, not selling their players. Right?
No, I agree with that. But I come back to this thing about, I don't think it's so much about the transfer dealings. You got to look at the wages that we're paying, and we're just not in the same league. So we're not going to be able to attract. I saw some number about the number of players who are over. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous, obviously, but over 200,000 a week, and we've got like 2 or 3, and Arsenal have got 15 or something. I mean, the numbers are just absurd, and so that has to change if we're going to attract and retain the very best players.
I mean, what is it this year? We've signed Kudus and Simons. They're the 2 big signings. I don't know what salaries they're on, but it's certainly over 100 grand a week, probably 150. Obviously, we've got Paulinho coming in on loan, but we're paying that deal, which is around that same area. So, I think that Levy, maybe smartly, we got burned by the whole Ndombele thing, and was like, I can't afford to spend a 60 million fee and to give 200 grand a week to players that end up doing, being as successful as what Ndombele was. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't do it again, but it clearly means you're a bit more reticent. And, if they're on silly wages, you can't shift them. And if they're on lower wages, you may well be able to shift those things. Like, when Reguilon was on 50 grand a week, I would be surprised if the teams that he went to didn't take on the full whack. They could have done. Man United certainly could have paid it. Maybe not Brentford. So I think it's a weird way of looking at it, because it probably wouldn't be how I looked at it. But I suspect that Levy was like, look, I don't mind paying the fee to get a player who is rated and that we want, and that, clearly if other teams want them, you're going to have to pay that fee regardless. But the wage is something that was in his eyes a bad thing. Now, I don't agree with that, because the transfer fee is the massive thing to me. Most wages don't go above the cost of the transfer fee, right? If you're paying big money for a player, then the wages they're earning probably won't amount to the same amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think you're right. That is the way he looked at it, but it's not the way that you create a winning team in this day and age. That's the issue. I mean, I think I describe the wage bill as being like essentially a proxy for the quality of your players, because that's what it is. And the clubs with the biggest, on the whole, I mean, obviously you get the occasional blip, but on the whole, season by season, the clubs that are able to pay the biggest wages attract the best players and win the trophies.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know enough about that lot down the road, but obviously the team that they have now is pretty good. But I don't know if the wages that they're on now is certainly not what they were on when they signed. And so that there's this idea of what Levy did before, where you come in, if you prove yourself, I'm happy to give you a new deal. I'm happy to bump up your wage. Like Jed Spencer's had 2 contract renewals in the last 12 months. Yeah. So I think there is this idea of look, if you come in, then I'm happy to pay it because you've proven that you're worth it. And unfortunately, in the occasions that we've had, I mean, Romero came on a big wage. But again, that was the only one we've had on a big wage coming in a very long time. So it's a weird one, because I don't, for example, you look at Brennan Johnson, he's come in, he's been at the club for a couple of years, he was top scorer last season, he's not had his contract renewed yet, right? And yet
don't get me started.
I'm not going into that. We're talking about the wages, but you would assume, right? If someone else had done that. I guess he's on 70 grand a week, something like that, which again is pretty good money for a footballer. But for whatever reason, it hasn't been extended. He hasn't got more money, and people like Archie Gray and Bergvall are on similar. So it's just an interesting thing. We obviously want to get people in who are going to get a massive pay rise by coming to Spurs, but they also want there to be a room for improvement, so that you're not just handing out insane money to someone who only really cared about that in the first place.
Yeah, but that's the strategy of bringing in the younger, the younger players, and backing that they're going to improve over time.
But I mean, the thing is that's what that lot down the road did, right? I mean, they spent money on fees for Odegaard and Ben White and you name it, but the money that they're on now was obviously not the money that they had then. And so I just that. What Pochettino did with that team and what that lot have done with their team, they seem to have followed the same thing. And Spurs, I think, probably just tried to, run before they could really walk. And Ndombele was wanted by lots of teams, and Spurs were like, well, okay, this is the stadium's about to open. We're going to have this money. They didn't know COVID was going to happen, so fine, you make it. You convince him with that salary, because it seemed clear that that's really what he was interested in. But yeah, it didn't work out, and I can understand why that would have made him more reticent to do it. But you're right; it doesn't mean that we couldn't or shouldn't have. But we've found ourselves in a little bit behind the 8 ball. And what do? Do you save that money for transfer fees to get more players in, or do you that's the choice you've got? Because for whatever for the fact that the club is run the way it was, we were never going to go out and get 5 or 6 of those players in one window. Just wasn't going to happen. So it's always been a balancing act, sadly.
Sure.
I did just look. Johnson's contract runs till 2029. I'm afraid, HG. So you've got another 4 years of him, unless we find something.
But the thing is, it's not. It's never really been about the length of the contract. It's to do with the fact that they get. I mean, because Bergvall got a new deal within 6 months of really starting. Do you know what I mean? And it went, granted, it went from 15 grand to 70 grand or whatever it was. It was a massive pay rise, but the contract length was 1 more year. So was
it only a year? Yeah,
I think so, because he was already on a 5-year deal when he signed, and we probably just made it a bit longer. But it was still this idea of like, but you've proven yourself. Now, we can argue about whether Johnson has, but given the fact that he scored a lot of goals, other teams may well have decided to do that. And for what, we haven't. So it is a weird one because we clearly can afford more on wages. There's no doubt about that. But, it is a catch-22. You go out and sign big money, big wages, and if it doesn't work out, you're left, trying to flog them like Raheem Sterling right now or Sancho right now or whatever. Spurs have been just more reticent to make those deals.
Yeah, certainly more cautious for sure.
Yeah.
The thing is, we brought the average age of the squad down dramatically, and just by proxy, you're going to bring the wage bill down if you bring younger players in, because you're going to, like say with Berval, you're going to start him off at a lower level and then build him up. Do you remember the time when we gave Ericsson, Dele, Kane all new contract, and all these players got new contracts probably around the 15, 16-ish mark.
Mm-hmm.
They all got new contracts very quickly, and it seems to be that they're trying to do something similar. Word is that Bentancur and Van der Ven are very close. Van der Ven's not on a massive contract by any means compared to, especially the level he's at. So
he should be.
Well, yeah, I think it's about 50.
I agree. I think he should have had that new deal already. But I guess it's just this idea of if you want to go for the top players, right? Like, let's face it, you take Xavi Simons, he was wanted by a lot of teams, but no one really pulled the trigger. And maybe they didn't pull it because he wanted wages. Right. And it's a wage that Spurs could afford, but maybe others were like, well, no, we don't really want to do that because you haven't. Like, Spurs are in that catch-22 where you have to do it if you want to get those players in, right? You have to. And now we can all sit here and hope that Xavi Simons will be worth the money we've invested. Because I saw it on German TV that they said he's Tottenham's most expensive transfer ever, but they were including the transfer fee and the wage. Because if it's a 7-year deal on the 200 grand a week that he's supposedly on, then it would take him more than what on them. But I mean, I'm not sure I agree with it, but that's what they were saying. And so, yeah, it's a massive investment that we're doing, once a year, twice a year now. And you can either say, right, well, instead of spending 50 million plus huge wages, I'll spend 30 million plus huge wages and get 3 or 4 players for the same money, and maybe hope that it's still based on hope, isn't it? You're trusting your football knowledge to get better players in for a lower fee. And we're going on a different topic now, but I guess I am not surprised that Spurs have done what they've done. Whether I agree with it.
Here's the net spend, supposedly. Now, these figures are never going to be completely accurate, but we are the 4th highest net spenders this summer, supposedly. Liverpool, I mean, is that right? Is that right?
No, that would be before the Isaac, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think it is.
No, because they've sold really well.
Oh, because they're selling, yeah, right, okay, yeah, right.
Because they sold Luis Diaz and they sold Harvey Elliott and they sold. There's another one probably that Darwin Núñez went for decent money,
and a couple of other kids they sold a guy to Bournemouth who's on the bench, I think, on Sunday for 20 million. Young Scottish lad I'd never heard of. But they just seem to have this brilliant.
He'd never heard of you either, John.
But I mean that number of 257 looks huge, right? But I don't think they spent anything last year, or very little last year.
No, that's right.
His name, the Italian who's been left out of the Champions League squad. Not Chiesa.
So
Chiesa's
not in it, But the other Italian, they bought a centre back for like 35 million. Right, who's like 18, 19. So they've spent a lot of money, they've recouped a lot of money, and maybe next year they won't need to, most likely. I mean, who's going? Salah's got another 2 years left now, so they're well set, and they might be thinking, hey, we're doing it now because we can, and next year we won't need to. Spurs aren't in that position of strength yet, so we need to do it regularly. But as you talked about the fact that the age, the average age of Spurs players has gone down. When you look at the squad, like, who's really going to go now? Like, we're starting to make decisions between quality as opposed to need, right? So Bissouma's going to go next summer if he doesn't go next week, so you'll probably need another midfielder, and we may well, Richarlison might be off because his contract's running down, right? So we might be looking at another striker, but we're getting to the point now. We still need a left back, but we're getting to the point now where it's going to be a case of contract will be dictating whether they leave, right, as opposed to quality. and that's when that's where you make those big decisions. Like Liverpool didn't really have to do what they did this summer, but they chose to, and whether it works for them long term, we're about to find out. But I certainly don't think their best team now is better than the team they had last season. It's just different.
It's just going back to the question of Levy. There's a strategy, at play around what we've just been talking about. Wages, signings, young players, etc. To what extent do you believe that Levy was the mastermind of that strategy, and therefore there could well be a new one, or in fact he was just a sort of mouthpiece of a broader, influence, and therefore it's unlikely to change? I mean, I think that seems to be the big question for us at the moment.
It's hard to know, but what we do know is Daniel Levy is a very, very intelligent person, and he likes to, as you even say in your book, he likes to micromanage stuff, doesn't he? He wants to know every intricate detail. The trouble is he's not a football man, so he has made some quite big mistakes on the footballing side. He's made some good decisions. You could say bringing Arneson was a good decision, but then he overruled Arneson because Arneson wanted Martin Jol, and he brought Jacques Santini in, which failed. He brought Harry Redknapp in, which meant he had to get rid of his director of football. He brought AVB in, which was terrible. Then he brought Poch in, and brought. How many directors of football we had over the years? Multiple, really, which haven't worked.
I definitely feel like he should have learned more than maybe he had over 20 years, right? And there are rumors as to the fact that Pochettino was second or third choice. He wanted, he always reminds me of that scene in The English Office where David Brent gets asked who the best composer is, and he just kind of stumbles onto Beethoven because it's pretty much the only one he's heard of. And that's how I feel Daniel Levy looks at football. He's like, oh, if you've won stuff, you must be good. And that's the level of understanding. It's not why or how. It's just, look at Santini. He won the Euros or the World Cup, the Euros, I think, right? So he won something, so therefore he must be good. We're clearly but the bloke didn't speak English. That's a problem, right? I mean, it should be that difficult, but it was almost, that was the idea that if it works somewhere else, it will work at Tottenham just organically because you're good at what you do. And I suspect Levy probably feels that way about other industries where someone with a good skill set can switch and would still be good. It wouldn't matter. But I mean, given the evidence of the last 6 years, even since the stadium opened, we've gone from certain things that, last year we went out and bought teenagers, and then 10 months later Angie's there going, well, we probably shouldn't have done that, and a fair few fans knew that was a bad idea, right? And so this year we haven't gone for teenagers as much, right? We've got the one Japanese guy, but we've gone for proven, and Johan Langer came out and said we wanted those with Premier League experience or those with European experience, and things that we were clearly lacking last year. But I mean, that should have been obvious to anyone that we would be lacking those things last season, right? Based on who we bought, based on what we wanted them to do. So it's, I'd like to think that, I mean, if it's still going to be Johan Langer in charge, then I don't expect much to change, sadly. And I would like to think it would. If Paratici comes back like rumoured, then maybe things might get better. Again, it's horses for courses. What do you think? What do you prefer? But I think that Spurs definitely can improve in that area, and they need to.
Yeah. Okay. So who is Peter Sharrington then? Joined Tottenham in March as a non-executive director. He's a director of ENIC, the company that holds a majority stake in Spurs, former CEO of City Private Bank. He spent 25 years at the financial firm. So he's a money man, basically, which in many ways your chairman should be. But he won't, because he's non-executive, means he won't have day-to-day responsibilities. He's there to really oversee the strategy of the club and the way it's run, and let Vinay run the club. And whether it be Paratici running the football side, or hopefully maybe Johan Lang will go into a nice shoe company just for you, HG, because I know actually you love his grey shoes.
No man with any amount of money. I mean, no man at all. But those shoes he wears in those videos are so horrific. But yeah, that's just me. I have a thing for that.
Oh God, I'm having a struggle going through the slides here. That I've got a nice picture for you, actually.
You're not going to bring the shoes up, are you?
He segued into that, didn't he? So
maybe I'm the only one who noticed this stuff, but there's a video that he did when Frank was announced, and they kind of walked around the perimeter of one of the pitches at Spurs, and yeah, he was wearing what appeared to be like slip-on Crocs of just something that you wouldn't expect a grown man to wear. There they are.
There you go.
Like, sorry, I learned this from my mother. My mother was all about shoes and how they say a lot, but yeah, I didn't have a great deal of respect.
It's not
anyway.
a good look, is it?
No.
Does anyone in the chat like these shoes? Just to, I'm not judging you. If you like the shoes, that's your choice. But I'm just curious. I mean, I haven't watched the video. I'm not normally I would watch the video, but my goodness, Ten Hag didn't get the Spurs job allegedly because he didn't have a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that man got a personality, how bad is Ten Hag? And we know he's bad, but my goodness, the comparison.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. Like, I'm probably now going to go and look at my shoes and find out exactly what people think when they see me wear them. But I don't have much faith in Lange, and I don't, I feel like as much as this summer ended up being quite good for Spurs, probably, I think it was more luck than judgment. So we'll see what happens with those signings. But I'm happy with 3 or 4 of them. I mean, they're good players, but we shall see what really happens. But I don't think that we started the summer thinking that those players, certainly when Simons had much chance of coming to us. I think Kolo Muani we probably did want, and he wasn't interested until suddenly we were the best option left. But fine by me, right? Like we got the player we wanted eventually. I'm okay with that.
Look, Davo's got rid of Levy, and now he's saying, right, Lange's gone. Davo apparently has the power. Did we know this?
He's probably right. That previous comment actually about the micromanagement thing, I think is a really good point. Because the impression I have is, you talked about, the role of a chairman is it's about governance, about sitting across the top of a business and making sure people are doing the right thing in the right way, and we're following the right procedures and following laws and all that kind of stuff. Not to get into the weeds. And if you've ever worked in a business where that kind of style of leadership is adopted, that it's toxic at the end of the day. Because it just sort of, it's like a weed that strangles the business, right? And I kind of get the impression that that's where it was at with Levy. So I am confident that extracting all that weed out of the business, if you can put it that way, will necessarily affect change. Even if the overarching kind of strategy might still be there, I think it will allow everybody else to do their job better. So one would hope that the overall performance of what is at the end of the day a business, including the football side, will improve. That's me being a bit optimistic.
This is interesting. Like Levy made this big deal about how he and Vinay were good friends and they'd known each other for a long time, and they did that video where they were kind of together answering questions. And yet now we get this source close to the Lewis family almost suggesting that, like, we have faith in Vinay and Charrington and whoever to lead the club now. And it's like, well, so again, like, who picked Vinay? Like if it was Levy's choice.
Okay. It's Game of Thrones, isn't it? I mean, Levy just didn't see it coming. He was sat next to his, something that was...
I don't mind Charrington per se, because I don't think he's going to be involved in anything. He's just going to be, overseeing things to make sure
what
that
a chairman should do, right?
Yeah, but then, what evidence is there that Vinay will be good at his job, right? Like, we know he did stuff at Arsenal, but how much was he involved in identifying the things that we need to change? Like, because he left, and then Edu's gone. Like, all the people that you think were kind of involved, like, was Vinay the guy who appointed Mislintat at the Goons, who did a terrible job, and then went somewhere else and did a terrible job? Like, I don't have much faith that the people making those football decisions right now are going to make good ones. It doesn't matter whether it was Levy doing it or Scott Munn doing it or whoever. Right now, I look at what's going on, and I think, well, there's little evidence to suggest that they will make the changes that I think that we need. So you're just hoping that they do it, and if they stumble across it, I'll take that, right? But like, if you get there by hook or by crook, you have to understand what it was that worked. If you don't understand the reasoning, you'll never make that. You'll never make it.
You may well be right, but this is just a point in time, obviously, and if you look at the long game, Levy coming out is massive because he had become this omnipotent sort of entity within as I say, like a sort of weed that went through the whole business. Taking that out then creates an opportunity for change. That what's there now might not be fabulous, but it's a new beginning. There's no question about that.
Yeah, just David just reminding us that Grumpy Old Spurs is back on Monday nights as of the new season, not Tuesdays. Although I'm sure he'll be looking at the pictures on Twitter. He's going to be happy Old Spurs now with his bottle of bubbly that he had outside the bar somewhere in Sydney. It's an interesting question. Could you see Levy going to United with experience of building their new stadium? I think his wife would probably kill him. HG?
I mean, they might ask him a few questions. They'd probably be stupid not to, right? Because if anyone knows about it, it would be it. But no, I don't think he would be working for them. I mean, it might just be, I don't know. He doesn't want to strengthen his club's rivals, right? I mean, that's what it would be. He doesn't need the money.
No, well, he's made money. He's been paid well by Spurs, but his wealth is stuck in Tottenham presently.
Yeah, I know, but he's been paid well, right?
He has been paid well. No, but I'm just saying. I'm not countering you. Just saying, his problem is his money is. He's a rich man compared to any of us.
Yeah.
But his actual assets are stuck in a trust because it's the same as the Lewis family trust. He's got a family trust which holds his shares in Tottenham. Now, what the conditions for him selling are will be interesting. Whether he can walk away, whether he wants to walk away, it may be the deal that is all going to get sold at the same time. I don't know. We probably won't find out until it eventually happens.
One of the things I mentioned in the book, I don't know if you picked this up, John, just another plug for my book, is I looked up, I think was it 23 different companies that Levy is the director, that are based at 742 High Road, Tottenham.
There's a lot.
And there was three when he joined. So they've created this sort of labyrinth, of companies and things. Extracting him's not that straightforward. And I imagine he could even retain some directorships in some of the property companies and things.
I don't know if Connor's still watching, but Connor did tweet today saying that I know Levy has been removed on Company's House now formally, that Levy has come off a number of those other subsidiary companies as well. I haven't looked myself, but right. I think he has been removed as a director on a lot of those. But he still owns that percentage of ENIC, which so unless he's bought out, he's still got that. He hasn't got the power because he's not the majority shareholder, but he does own 29.8% or whatever it is. But back to Vinay. Vinay could have gone anywhere. He was highly thought of in the business world by all accounts. He was a money man. I think he was commercial. I think he did the deal. I think I heard earlier he did quite a big deal. Is it Adidas? Who was their spot? What's their shirt that Arsenal wear?
Oh, yeah, I think they have the stripes down the shoulder. So.
Yeah, I think he did that Adidas deal. He's done a lot of commercial deals before he moved into the CEO position at Arsenal. So he's quite a skilled person. He's a very good people person.
But can he identify someone that can identify players? I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Yeah. Like from a fan's perspective, like it's great that we can have all this extra money coming in and we can maybe get a better deal for whatever. But at the end of the day, the people making the decisions on the football side is the ones that I am more interested in. And yeah, like, I mean, was he the one who went for Arteta? Has that really worked out? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your viewpoint. Was Edu the main? It's kind of like who is deciding? Like I feel like if you've ever appointed Ten Hag, then I know that you don't know football, right? I know that, and I knew that even before he went to Man United because I just looked at it and was like, yeah, whatever you did at Ajax, it clearly wasn't you that did it. And that's just from listening to him on video. So like it'll be interesting. Like is Thomas Frank that guy? Is Thomas Frank there because he was Johan Langer's mate? Right. Those are the questions that we'll probably find out. Like, I don't believe that to be true, but I have questions about it because of what the people in charge of the decisions they've made before. Does that make like the thing is, if George W. Bush had told me water was wet, I'd question it because it was him saying it. Didn't matter whether I knew it would be true or not. Like that's what it comes down to. Like if you don't trust the person who's making the decisions, then I think questioning it is quite normal.
Yeah. So JP sent us this picture just of Daniel walking away with his little box as he walked out of Lily White House. There you go.
Very nice.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There's the termination on Company's House of him from Tottenham Hotspur as a director. It feels quite brutal if it really wasn't his choice. But Joe Lewis, people kept telling me, "Oh, Joe Lewis has put it all in a trust. It's nothing to do with him." Charrington was named as one of the people controlling the Lewis family trust about a year ago. It was quite some time ago. Previously, we had a lawyer.
Doesn't he live out in the Bahamas on the same estate as
He
Lewis?
does live in the Bahamas. Yeah, he does.
So,
he basically controls the trust for Joe, but Joe Lewis runs it all. The only reason it ever got put in the trust is because he was under the feds were after him for insider trading, weren't they? And until that got dealt with, but also because of he's no spring chicken, as we've said. Even Vivian Lewis and her brother are roughly the same age as Levy. They're early 60s. So it will be interesting to see what happens. What we do know, because we've been told, Vivian Lewis has been going to Spurs games for years. She's always kept out the limelight. That picture earlier that I put up with Daniel Levy was her next to him, according to our friend Mr. Diver. So maybe she'll be there more. Maybe we'll see. But we're going to have to see what happens.
Well, maybe there was an earlier comment saying that he'd been put in place to sell the club. And one of the things I write in here is around, and people often say, be careful what you wish for. What do we end up as a plaything of the Qatari sovereign wealth fund, or does Amazon come and buy us, or bloody Netflix, or we're entertainment business now, according to stuff that's been put out in the past. So it's if that's the case, it's a time of great uncertainty.
Oh, we could get Fenway Group. Yeah, that I've always said, when people say, "Do you want Levy to stay or not?" I've always said, "Be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what you're going to get." And the worry is, there's quite a lot of Americans owning these clubs, and now we're getting more Middle East people coming in. But that's all you're going to get now, because you're going to get hedge fund, or you're going to get a nation state buying you, because the value of the football clubs is so astronomical now in sports terms, not necessarily in business terms. And what do they want? They just want to make more money. Now with Chelsea, you can sort of see what they're doing now. Or when they first came in, we thought, what on earth are they doing, spending all this money haphazardly? But they've started selling players, and they made a profit this summer, ridiculously, for all these players. Most of them didn't even play, and their end goal clearly is just to increase the value of the club, to sell it I think they've not allowed to sell it for 10 years, are they, as part of the purchase deal?
It's interesting about the Fenway Group. There's been Liverpool fan groups that have wanted Fenway gone for exactly the same reason. There were Spurs fans who wanted Levy gone, but they weren't putting in their own money into it. And if you look at you showed the net spend for the summer, and that Liverpool have spent a lot this year. Well, their revenue is 200 million more than Spurs. So even if they're spending a huge amount more on wages, the club has the money to do that. Right, they have the money to spend more than Spurs do, and Spurs have a lot compared to most, but Liverpool 150, 200 million every year ahead of Spurs. That's a huge advantage that Spurs aren't really going to close that gap unless they are smarter, because we used to be around the same level as Liverpool, but then they were smart with their money, and it's exploded for them. So it all comes back to the football at this point. Spurs can sign better deals, and they can have a few more concerts and all those things that have obviously helped. But it will come down to what we do with the money we have, right? And I can sit here and hope that this year's summer transfer window was a good one. I can hope that last year's will end up being a good one, because we don't really know. So we have to wait and see, and we have to hope that Thomas Frank, because I think he's got a pretty good squad now. It's about finding players that work well together, right? We've got a bunch of players that like I think we're only really short in one area where I'm worried about a couple of injuries, meaning we might struggle. But again, like there's no major weakness at Spurs anymore, right? Not really. So I just it's now down to the person.
It'd be good. It'd be good to talk about football, wouldn't it? I'm glad you changed the subject. My way, just based on the early games of the season, is transition through the midfield. It's just, I mean, even the Burnley game in the first half, we couldn't get the ball from the defence into the midfield. It was, and very similar against Bournemouth. And I watched all the highlights of all the other teams, and they just pass it, incisive passes through, and they're up with the attackers in no time. And we just, there's something missing there in that transition for me, and I can't see where that's going to change.
Yeah, I mean, is it like I've sat here? I mean, maybe not on the stream, but I think I've done so. I fully believe that 4-2-3-1 doesn't suit the players that we have fit. So I don't really know why we're doing it, and that maybe we could do something different and help those areas, because you're right. Like, there were, as much as there were fans like me who wanted someone like Paulinho to come in because I thought we needed more stability and solidity in midfield, there were others who were screaming for an Adam Wharton type player who has the ability to pass through the lines, and Spurs probably needed both.
Yeah.
Right. And we weren't, we either we didn't focus on that area, or we couldn't afford both at this time, or maybe we couldn't find players who were willing to come, or we were just hoping that. But to me, Archie Gray and Pap Sarr are very similar midfielders, and Bergvall wants to get the ball deep. He's not great as the furthest forward. Like, are we trying to turn him into a Lampard style midfielder, where all he does is basically, get in the box and try and score goals and knit things out? Like we don't have that identity yet, but we don't have bad players. I believe that we just need to find something that enables them all to look good, right? To be put in positions to do the things that they are best at, and whether it's injuries to Maddison and Kulusevski or whatever. But right now, we're struggling to get an 11 on the pitch that are good with the ball. Like they look like they know what to do.
We got West Ham next weekend. Assuming everyone comes back, hoping everyone comes back fit, what 11? I mean, with the back four we know anyway, but the front six, HG, who would you like that to make? I mean, I'm assuming Muani's going to be up front, because Richarlison's off with Brazil and probably going to come back knackered anyway. But so the front six, who would you like it to be with the new signings?
I'm not sure I'd really want a back four, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I went to Udine, and that was a brilliant performance. And yes, we didn't have the ball for much of it, and we will probably have the ball a bit more against West Ham. We should want it more. But it's just like just because you play with the back five doesn't necessarily mean that you have to defend the whole time, right? You can still use those players, your wing backs become more like midfielders at this point, and you can decide to play a bit more attacking and press with a 3-4-3. That's still possible. I just feel that Porro is not really a fullback, and he's a very creative player, one of the few that we actually have right now. Like, we are desperate for creativity, so we need to get him further up the pitch, right? Having him as a right back doesn't help the team, right? Especially in games where we're going to have the ball. So, I think that clearly we haven't really settled on a left winger yet, because Johnson's played a couple of games, but I didn't watch the Bournemouth game, so I can't talk about that. But a lot of people have said that it's not really where he wanted to be. Yes. So I was aware that my daughter saved me with that one. But I just that left wing spot. If we're going to do 4-2-3-1, who's going to be the left winger? Is it going to be Odobert? Is it going to be Tell? Is it going to be Muani out there and Richarlison stays up top? That's the key issue right now, and to me at least. So I think if it's the West Ham game, we know they're going to be aggressive, and we know they're going to be, cup final, whatever. So we have to be able to deal with that. So we're going to have to be solid, and to me that means that as much as Johnson scores goals, he's not part of a solid 11. So,
Oh no.
do you
Who's the
put
midfield though,
Richarlison?
HG? 'Cause I get the impression, obviously we've got new players, got exciting players coming in up front. They'll make things happen if we can get the ball to them. My concern, as I said earlier, was the transition through the field.
Yeah.
So who's let's say there are three in midfield. Who are you looking at for that?
I think my three would be, Palhinha and Bentancur, because I think they work well together in there too. And then the third one, I would go. You've spent the money on Xavi and he's fit. You want him there, right? Like you want, and even if he has a bit of a free role to move around, like I would be looking probably at a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1, right?
Right.
And it would be, if the three centre backs they almost have to be Van der Ven, Romero, and Danso now, right? Because Dragason's not fit yet and all that. But like, if they're your defensive line, right? And you say to Udogie, actually, in a perfect world, Udogie would be fit, and I'd have Spence at centre back. But I know I get pelters for that. But I just think that, to me, physically and football-wise, Jed Spence could be a right-footed Van der Ven. Absolutely. He's got the speed. He's got the ability to play at fullback. You could have a back three with the Romero in the middle. You've got the two speedsters on the side. And unless you're defending in numbers, that should be enough. West Ham don't have much up front, right? So then you could say to the people ahead of them, right, like if Palhinha is, in effect, your fourth defender and sits, you could say Bentancur go forward, Udogie can go forward, Porro can go forward, and then you leave a front two to be in the box. And if that's Richarlison and Kolomuani, perfect, right? That's probably what I think that's a best use of the players we have, because we talked last year under Ange that we needed tricky wingers, right? We've got one in Odobert, who, again, we have not seen much of. I would suggest that Mathys Tel could do that too, but he's clearly on the outs right now. So, yeah, like, what are you going to do, right? Like, if our strength is at centre forward, and you know that Tel can play there, and you know that Solanke can play there, and Kolomuani can play there, and Richard, that's four decent options, and you're only ever going to play with one? That doesn't make any sense to me. Right now, given the squad we have, I think
all of those are to be proven as a centre forward. I don't think we've got a strong, proven centre forward that we've seen playing for the team. Certainly not Richarlison. But the other one I want to mention is Bergwijn. Do we have to call him Bergwijn? Every time he's on the pitch, he impresses. I think when he came on against Bournemouth, he changed the game. He's a really, really good player.
Where did he play when he came on against Bournemouth?
It was further forward in midfield.
Yeah,
He
was Sarr moved back and he moved forward into the sort of the 10 role.
Yeah, I mean,
and it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that Sarr is a much better 6 than he would be as a 10, because he's got very good short passing. He's got legs to get around the pitch. Like, if Palhinha can't play and tackle, then I would rather have Sarr there. But it appears that Sarr is, right now seen as a better option to go further forward. And in certain games, I could see it, right? Like, I remember when Chelsea were really good, they'd have Ramirez, who would often come in and be like a third midfielder that was more solid, or he'd play almost right wing and make them more solid in the bigger games. But like, that's almost what I see that Sarr could be. He's got that ability. But yeah, like, Frank sees them as differently. Like Bergwijn's a very good player. I think he's probably one of the first off the bench in a midfield area. Like, it's either him or Bentancur for that role, I would say.
But he makes things happen. He takes people on. He plays incisive passes. A lot of that sort of creativity. I think he brings that. And the more we play him, the better. The better he gets. So
it's interesting.
At the same time,
it's definitely interesting to see at the end of last season, like, Bergwijn was very much ahead of Sarr, and he's not been injured, and Sarr has basically taken that spot. And it must be through training or through, like, if you think about what Damsgaard was for Brentford last year. Like, he's very much the hard-working, didn't score a huge amount of goals, but was always there for the press, always a massive part of what they wanted to do, but was never really the focus of the attack, right? And I think he's looked at Sarr and think, you could give me the same things that Damsgaard did, and maybe Bergwijn has missed out because of it. But I definitely feel as if yeah, like our squad right now, because of the fact we don't really have wingers that can beat a man, or very few, we need to focus on the middle of the pitch and allow the wing backs to have those areas. Because Porro is a much better attacker. Udogie, we've never really seen him go forward that much, but just having that left foot would help the balance of the team in my eyes. We've seen other teams in the past have asked that almost like the wide centre backs to bomb forward and provide that. Sheffield United did it most famously, but like I've seen Van der Ven a couple of times this season already, like actually take the ball and stretch teams by running with it, not by passing it to someone else, but actually using his physicality to scare teams. And I don't think we scare enough teams going forward, and so they're quite happy to let us have the ball. So we have to do something different.
Yeah. Okay. Dave asked a question that I was on my list to ask. Out of 10, it's been the question that's asked a lot everywhere in the last sort of week or so. Well, since Monday. Out of 10, what would you give the window? Now, I think you have to factor in the fact that Romero and Spence have signed new contracts. There's the negative of Eze and Gibbs White not happening, but then actually is signing Xavi Simons a better thing in many ways. I'm sort of on the 7.5 out of 10 is where I'm sitting.
That's exactly what I was going to say. 7.5.
Yeah.
I think for me, sorry, I'll let H answer as well. But for me, one of the things is, if we didn't know all this rumor and all this stuff that goes on behind, and you didn't know about Eze and you didn't know about Gibbs White, and you just knew the outcome, you'd be happy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I tend to switch off from all the noise, all the rumors, and this journalist said this, and this guy said that, and it's just a load of nonsense. I just want to know, who's holding the shirt at the end of the day.
Yeah, I did a post on my Facebook page, and it was basically showed the 5 players that have left in the summer, or that, let's say the 5 players that were part of the squad last year that aren't at the club anymore, and the 5 new players that have come in and are part of it. And like, if you think about the people that have come in, then you're looking at, Takai and Kudus and Simons and Paulinho and Kolomuani, right? Now, there's 4 players there, I think, that are ready to play in the first team at Spurs right now. All right. And we don't know how good Takai is, but we can hope. But that's 4 players. You look at the 5 people that went, it's Whiteman and Forster and Reguilon and Werner and Son, right? So you've got rid of 4 afterthoughts and replaced them with 4 players that you would play in the first team and not really have any qualms about. To me, that's a really good summer. And you're right. The fact that we didn't get players that we were apparently after, it's almost irrelevant. What's relevant is what you got at the end. Yeah. So like I said 8 out of 10 because I still think that we're missing a left back. I would love to have another left back. But that's about it, right? We've got options at centre back, even if they're not really fit or we don't know how good they are, but we've got options all over. If Bissouma stays, like, we all know that he's not the best player in the world, but if he's your 24th player, you've got a good squad. Right, he's Premier League proven. Like, he started the Europa League final. We do not have a bad squad. I am just concerned that with 3 fullbacks plus Davies, that could be a bit stronger. But otherwise, Frank's got options. He can play whoever pretty much. And yeah, we're struggling with Maddison being out and Kulusevski being out, so that we don't have a great deal. But I mean, I talked about a team to play West Ham, and I didn't even mention Kudus' name. And he would obviously be in the first 11.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think the Kulu thing's a huge loss. Yeah. For that guy, the quality of football he was playing and what he brought to the team over a number of months, if not a year, was tremendous. And we need to get that guy. I don't know. Do you know what's wrong with him? What his problem is?
It's like patella. There's knee issues.
Yeah.
I mean, when I watched it, I knew it was serious. You could just tell it was such a huge collision. But yeah, like I think that it was either a broken kneecap or something. But it's a big deal.
Yeah, but we need him. We need him back because he's a tremendous player as well.
Even when he comes back, it's going to take him 2-3 months, I think, to get up to speed, because it's been a long time he's been out for now, and And he's always taken a little bit when he's come back from injuries, doesn't he, to get going?
Yeah, and he needs strength.
So
part of what he brings is that strength and confidence and so on. So that will take time.
But I mean, if you think about the players that we had to leave out of the Champions League squad, right? Now, obviously the focus is on Tell because he was the one fit player to miss out, right? But if you looked at the 21, 22 players that were named, again, there weren't many there, at least where I thought, okay, they're rubbish. They're not rubbish players. It's just a lack of options, right? But if Tell is your 22nd player who can't get in it, and you've got Madison and Kulusevski and Dragusin and injured internationals that could easily be in that squad if they were fit, right? I don't think it is a lack of players now. Last year I could have said that. Last year we were looking at Werner maybe being first option off the bench, which was never good enough, right? Mm-hmm. But now it's not the case, and so I think that there are very few excuses for Thomas Frank. Sadly, I want him to succeed, but there's no lack of quality in that squad. He just needs to find a system that makes it work, and that's his job, right? I mean, that's the manager's job. So, fingers crossed he can do it.
He's a good manager. I think he's proven in Premier League. He's a smart guy. He's a nice guy. I think he'll do all right.
Yeah, I mean, the West Ham game is huge. Not just because it's West Ham, but because it's an away game where we know they're going to be up for it. And we struggled with Bournemouth being in our face, apparently, right? And West Ham are going to be in our face. And so what do we have that will make them worry about us, right? How can we live with whatever they bring? Because they had a good win in their last game. So they're going to have some kind of confidence. And, 60,000 or 55,000, whatever it is, that capacity there. It's a big game. And if Spurs lose that one, then questions there'll be huge questions.
And Brighton away next Premier League is never an easy game. Never an easy game.
So we had two great results to start the season, and the PSG performance was amazing. Yeah. But as it always is with Spurs, you're only ever one result away from a crisis, and so you can't allow that to happen. We need to go to West Ham, who don't have much up top, and we need to beat them.
Yeah, we need to build momentum, don't we, in the season?
Yeah,
for sure.
We also can't necessarily expect Siemens and Muani to hit the ground running either. That's the only thing. I mean, it's interesting. Muani's obviously not on international duty. Have you seen the Instagram video of him training with all the kids? And he just looked, what is going on here? And these are the kids that aren't even good enough to get in the youth international teams as well. So, I mean, I didn't really recognise any of them. And I think he was a little bit lost. But hopefully having that week, 10 days training at the club, he'll get into the mode and be ready to go for West Ham. But I worry about Siemens. He is a lightweight player. It might take him a little bit of time to get used to the Premier League. That's my only concern. But he's a talented player.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a shock to see either of them start, right? If we go 4-2-3-1, he could easily just keep the same side that lost against Bournemouth and see what happens, right? Because they're all fit, they're all ready to go. But I would expect one of Siemens or Colomwani to start, at least one of them.
I'll tell you, if you'd watched the Bournemouth game, you wouldn't have said that, because there's no way you can put that same team out. It was dreadful.
But I think it's horses for courses. I don't think that side is any good, but I had palpitations when I saw it named against Burnley and we won 3-0. Right now,
we didn't play well in that game. We didn't play.
No,
well.
I don't think we played well either. But again, that's the idea. You don't know what you're going to get, right? And so, the Burnley one would be what I don't expect, and the Bournemouth one would be what I do expect. But whether Thomas Frank agrees with that is, I think, still questionable.
Shall we have a very quick look at the Champions League fixtures before we go? So we've got Villarreal at home. Then we've got a couple of away games at Bodo and Monaco. Teams we've played before, obviously Copenhagen. I don't remember us playing Copenhagen in my memory, HG.
No, I don't think
obviously, Andrew, you're a bit older than me. Can you remember us playing them?
No.
PSG, obviously, we have played. Slavia Prague, I'm sure we played them. Was that when we played in the chocolate kit back in when Berbatov scored his first goal? Was that Slavia Prague?
It was either that or Sparta. One of the two.
And then Borussia Dortmund, obviously, we played a number of times in recent years. And HG, your second team, Eintracht Frankfurt, again for the second season, as well as Bodo.
I know it's like three times in 5 years, something like that. Because we had him in the Champions League under Conte as well.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. So I'm happy that the German games are last because like they'll have their 3-4 week winter break. So you're either going to get a refreshed opponent or you're going to get an opponent that is not really up to speed yet. I hope that those games, by that point, shouldn't matter so much because we'd have won 4 or 5 out of the first 6, right? Then they're the winnable ones. But like we could have had a much more difficult draw. We could have had a much more glamorous draw. It's not really a huge Champions League set of fixtures. PSG and Dortmund maybe, but the others, are all Europa League teams in my eyes, pretty much. So,
like us, you mean?
Like us, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if progression is the thing, then great, right? Because that gives us a very good chance to
doesn't it? Yeah.
not just make the top, 24, but to make the top 8. Like I think that gives, like if we can win 2 of the first 3, I mean, we could even win all 3. But if we it's still like those first 4 fixtures are not. They shouldn't worry us too much. It's the last 4 where you get a bit more quality involved. But yeah, I won't be going to Frankfurt this time. But I hope by the time that game is played that there's nothing riding on it and we're both qualified in the top 8 and it doesn't matter what happens.
We hoped that last year and we had to win the last 2 games, didn't we, with a skeleton crew of players. Obviously, another good thing is playing Bodo in September and not in December, because that was one of my fears, or January, because that would not be very fun.
I think Man City have to go there in January. But again, it's that idea. But like in January, that's their off season, right?
Yes,
so if you're getting them in September, that's like crunch time for them. So there's no good time or bad time. We've Spurs just got to show up and win the game. Like we were good enough to beat Bodo last year. We should be good enough this year. But it will be, it's on us now, right? Like Ange was plugging holes and doing what he could to make sure we won those games. But Thomas Frank should have choices, right? And he'll look at the team that he wants to play midweek, and he might base his Saturday team on that. Like he should be, right? That's going to be a massive thing for us. We're hopefully going to see rotation. That means we can play. We won't ever have to play our best team to win, right? Or those best teams will be saved for the biggest games, which maybe Bodo Glimt away isn't, right? I mean that's. If you want to really use the full squad, you have to trust them.
Yeah, I've just realised the Wolves game's an 8 p.m. on a Saturday game, and I'm working that night. That's a bit annoying. And the Doncaster game I'm missing from work. But interesting. Got a Saturday night game, and then we travel out to Norway, obviously, and then lunchtime kickoff away at Leeds the following Saturday. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of to and fro. He's going to have to use the squad. That's the one thing that I felt Ange didn't do enough. He didn't, mainly because he didn't have the depth. But Madison and Kulusevski got flogged, didn't they? And they ended up getting injured.
At the start of the season, when he had a chance to do it, he didn't. And then he lost so many players to injury, he didn't have a chance anymore. And then towards the end of the season, it was clear that he was saving the players for midweek, and the weekend results didn't really matter. But, the club was clear about what they wanted from their manager. And so, there are people that haven't really played much so far this season that will be starting games in the next 4 or 5, and they need to be, right? We need to have everyone ready to play. And like if Brighton away is a massive game because we don't do well, but we've decided that we're going to start the game with Matisse Tell and whatever, then we're going to I still like to think that we will be good enough to do it, but we can't flog. Like Palhinha is the only defensive midfielder we have in my eyes, so we can't flog him. Because if we do and he gets injured, our midfield is really no better than it was last year, and it struggled last year. So it's
the key with Palhinha is playing him in the right games, in the big games when we're not going to have so much of the ball, because that's not his strength, and Saturday showed that. So it's about.
I guess he went off when Bergvall came on.
Yes, and then Sarr dropped back, so he got Bergvall had the first shot in the 68th minute on target. It was that. Yeah,
but Paulinho's stats are unreal, aren't they? There was one. The commentator said the other day that he's made more tackles in the Premier League in the last 3 years than any other player, and he didn't even play in the Premier League last year.
Yeah,
his numbers are insane.
Yeah, and I mean, Fulham probably did a lot more defending than, or certainly it was more 50-50 than a lot of, because teams now play Spurs and they know that we're not great at breaking them down, so they're quite happy to allow us to have the ball. And yeah, like Palhinha, that's not his game, but
No, but
no,
in like
maybe
Man
you
City
did.
game and things
Maybe
like
you
that,
did, yes.
he's perfect.
Yeah, as if you were sat next to a giant. Yes, you were with glasses. That was HG, basically.
I don't know about a giant. I mean, I'm only 6'3". It's not that big.
Yeah, but I'm 5'8". You're a giant compared to me.
Oh,
So
fair enough.
So a caption contest for the chat has to be this one.
That's a great photo.
It's a great photo, isn't it?
And he's probably side-eyeing someone completely different. You know what I mean? He's not even looking at Izzy, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And Grimsby have been granted permission to build a statue of Onana outside their stadium. There we go. So anyway, I'm just gonna click back through the slides if I can to the top one. Oh, where is it? There we go. There's Andrew. If you missed the start, there Andrew's written a very, very good book following Spurs last season, but also following the a friend of his who was the leader of the Spurs chapter of the Sydney Hotspurs.
That's it.
Who sadly passed away a few days after the Europa League final. And it's a really good book. It's £15. All the profits are going to the cancer charity. It's well worth a look. It's on Amazon. I have hopefully put it in the description of Andrew's website, which then links you to where you can buy it from Amazon. It's a great read. I've had a look at it. If you want to listen to more about it, Andrew was on the lab this week with Flav. He was on the cheese run a few weeks ago with Brendan. Well worth going for it. Buy it for your family as birthday presents, even if they don't like Spurs.
Even more so. Well, a friend of mine had an idea. He was going to buy it and send it all his Gooner mates.
Absolutely should do that. Actually, what I have forgotten to play was the video that gets mentioned in it when Johnson scored the goal at the pub. And what time is this in the morning?
Well, here I've got it on my T-shirt. You see, and as it says, it's Johnson 5:40. Does it say 5:42 a.m.? 5:42
a.m. Okay,
Thursday. There you go. And that's the
right. I'm going to play the video. It's 15 seconds. Yeah. Bear with us. There we go.
How good is that?
Brilliant. 5:42 a.m. on a Thursday morning.
So that's where we captured the image that the publisher then turned into like a cartoon style, and we put it on the cover, and I've got it on my T-shirt. There you go.
Amazing.
And the other random thing is that Andrew and I discovered that my father, who is now 80, who was head of music at the Latimer in Edmonton in the late 70s, taught Andrew because he went to that same school. So it's a rant, even though he's the other side of the world, we've got a link apart from Spurs. So it's a funny old game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Indeed.
Yeah. Andrew, thanks for coming on, mate. I'd love you to come back on because you've been great.
Yeah, no, look, it's an absolute pleasure, and to meet you as well, HG and John. I'm hoping to be back on the cheese room as well. So I think I'm scheduled for that as well. So yeah, look, I love being involved with you guys. I've been following the cheese room for many years since Aaron Jolly, is a good friend of mine. He was one of the founders. You need to get Aaron. If you've got any influence around that, you need to see more of Aaron. Try and get him on here. He's such a funny guy.
Yeah, he's a
very busy man, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true. But no, thank you so much for having me on and for pushing the book. I hope the Spurs community get behind it, and we make some decent money for the charity.
Brilliant.
Good. Davo's asking you to meet him at a beach for a beer at some point. So.
Oh, absolutely. Look forward to that.
There you go. HG, been good having you. Been good, great being on with you again, mate. I know we chat every day in WhatsApp world, but actually seeing a beautiful face.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. You're very kind. You can lie to my face like everybody else. It's great on because it's talking Spurs, and Spurs is my life. But yeah, I'm excited for the, I don't want to wait another week. I want to beat West Ham tomorrow. Why do I have to wait another week? It's not good.
If you're watching this on Catch Up, please give us a comment. Tell us what was, how do you rate the transfer market out of 10? What do you think of the squad? What do you think of the book? You're going to tell us you're going to buy the book, definitely. You are, if you're still watching, you're going to be redirected to Spurs Diehards, where Drew Ziller should be hosting Adrian and Ian's channel. And on that note, I think Davo's back on Monday. He's got a special guest on there. We might be back next Friday to preview who we play next week. I forgot. West Ham, of course. West Ham. And I've got to remember how to play the outro now. So thanks very much. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on.